Hi, Peter Charles here, folks for Life Fly Fishing. And today we're going to tie another Euro nymph, and I'm going to do something a little different. What I'm going to do with this fly is I'm not trying to replicate a particular pattern. What I'm doing is just showing you a way of tying, a method. And it involves using quills. I've got a pack of them here. You've got a variety of methods you can do. One is to take peacock herl and strip the fuzz off. You can look up ways to do that. You can use these quills that you purchase. You could also use something called body quill, which is actually like a thread that you can buy that's designed to be covered by UV glue. So you get some very interesting effects. I will be tying a few of the body quill flies a little later on. But right now I'm actually going to work with a real quill. Actually going to work with two. And show you a way to segment the body and get a sort of an interesting effect. Now, if you're going to be using stuff like this, you're going to have to soak them first. And I mean like for a couple of hours at least. Don't just dunk it in the water and try to use it. Because they are too stiff to wind and they will split. But once they've been soaked, they're usually pretty limp enough that you can wind them on with no trouble. So let's get started and look at the materials. My hook today is a size 10 jig hook. I'm using a 4mm tungsten bead and it's slotted. I'm using a 15 thou lead wire. My thread is a 10-aught white Vivus. My tail is Chickaboo. And as I said, I'm going to be using these quills, I'm going to be using a black and yellow. And finally, I'm going to be putting on some 8-aught fire orange. This is fluorescent. And finish up by using a black marker to put a bit of a wing pad. So let's get started. Now when you want to wrap over lead and you don't want your wraps to dig in and disturb the lead, wrap it in diagonals like that. So what you're doing is you're preventing, when you start wrapping normally, you're preventing your thread from digging into the wraps of the lead. So now I can wrap over the lead with no trouble. Bring my thread back. Now what I'd like to do at this stage is make sure I don't have any lead that's sticking up. That can be a real problem when you get just the end of the lead sticking up. You don't notice it, you're tying your thread because it's on the other side, and then your fly is finishing it with a lump of lead sticking through. Okay, now for the tail. We're going to use some Chickaboo here. Wind all that down. Now, what we're going to do here at this stage is I'm going to wind over this to create a taper. So I'm going to taper this body, bring it up to the lead. Now we're going to work our way back. And build up the thread here. You notice I'm turning my vise around. It gives me a chance to see it from different angles, and I can tell if I've got any problems. And like I do have a bit of fluff sticking up, so I'm just going to come back here and try and get rid of some of that fluff. There we go. Now for our quills. Now I've been soaking them, so get as much water off of them as you possibly can. Now bring your thread forward. You can finish off adding some taper. The quills themselves will add taper as well. Now you don't want this twist. You want them all to stay lined up on the same side. Now one way you can help do that is by grabbing these quills with hackle pliers. It helps you keep control. Take your time going around the hook bend. Better bring it right to the hook, move it over. Now let's build up some white here. Finish that off. Now, one thing I found with whip finishing over these beads, you can easily skip your thread onto the body. So really be careful you don't do that. You end up with wraps going down the body. And it's like, because of the shape of the fly, you end up in that situation. Now we'll come in with our orange. And again, I turn the fly so I can see what it looks like on both sides. One of the benefits of using a rotary vise. Now you can see we have a little bit of a lump there. That's not too cause of concern, but that was caused by when I'm cutting off those quills, they got a little loose. Again, be careful when you're whip finishing with these. Tendency of the thread to skip down the body. Take your time. Now, if you've seen the others, you've seen me use a toothpick for the UV. I'm going to use the brush today. And what you have to do really when you're using the brush is make sure you get as dry a brush as you can. You don't want a big goop of this stuff, this UV glue. You always can go back and get a little bit more if you need more on your brush. Now you can see it's gooping a little bit, so I'm going to come in here with my bodkin and just take off some of this. Now spin it. By spinning it like that, I keep it from gooping up in one spot. Okay, there we have our Perdigon nymph done with actual stripped quills. It produces an interesting segmented pattern. I think it will fish quite well. These things penetrate very, very well. And as I say, you can get that nice segmented pattern by using these stripped quills. Just remember you have to soak them for a couple of hours before you try to use them. Other than that, they work just fine. So, give it a try. The Perdigon done with stripped quills. Cheers.